Yeah, so I'm going to talk about Sencha Space, about the Sencha Space clients, about the Sencha Space admin console, and about the Sencha Space API, which is what we developers probably will like the most. I think by now we all know, we all love HTML5 apps. We like it all because, yeah, one, code base, and we deploy our apps everywhere. We run it everywhere. It's great. Yeah. There's just one thing, like lots of these Fortune 500 companies, they are not really fan of HTML5. And the reason why, that's, yeah, the data by its nature, so the data that you save in your app, by its nature is not really secure. Think about that. I mean, we have stuff like local storage, session storage, web SQL or IndexedDB, app cache or even file system. These are all like HTML5 features, how you can save your data offline when you purchase something from a web shop, or maybe your CRM data, or maybe you're even downloading a whitelist or a book, a PDF. You buy that maybe online and you save it on your file system. I mean, these are all ways of how we save our data, somewhere in our app or in our file system on our devices. And yeah, that is nice. I don't know if anybody of you plays this game. I love this game on the PlayStation. Yes. This game is about hackers, and yeah, I mean, in the video game, this is Aiden Pierce. He walks with his phone, and he's just hacking into other people's devices, and he steals all the data. And I mean, maybe it's a bit over the top in the video game, but one thing is true: like if your data is in somebody else's hands, yeah, then there's a security breach. Your iPhone can get stolen, or you can lose your tablet in the mall. Data, somebody else can get access to this data. Maybe the white paper or the book that you downloaded from the web shop and saved it on your file system. Yeah, it can be on a torrent site the next week, right? And if you have an app or a website, yeah, they can make a cross-scripting attack. Such an XSS scripting attack is not that hard, actually. If you take a look, what these hackers do is they, if you have a feature on your website where you can post something, say maybe you're posting on a forum or guestbook. Well, guestbook is maybe a bit old-fashioned, but yeah. Or if you, as soon as like the user can post data on the website and preview it, and it's possible to allow HTML, then you can run something like this, like. The browser thinks it's an image tag. But instead of calling an image, I'm just executing JavaScript, which is what I'm doing here. So I am posting to an attacker's website. I'm submitting something. And what I'm submitting is my data, what's in my local storage with the key foo. Now, of course, this hacker needs to know what the key is that's in my local storage. But yeah, I think we all know JavaScript. I mean, we can all open somebody else's website and just take a look and see what the developers did, right? So to figure out the key, that's not that hard. And there are like many ways how you can execute JavaScript. If you press a link, for example, you can already execute it and just make sure that you send these local storage to somebody else, yeah, to an attacker. So. Yeah, but we have a solution for that, and that solution is called Sencha Space. And what it is, it's actually a secure workspace, how you can protect and where you can save your offline data securely. You can save it secure and you can encrypt it, and we can give access to an administrator. So we give the control back to the IT or the system administrator. And we do that with our admin console. So within Sencha Space is like this wrapper where we can deploy our applications, mobile applications and desktop applications. So we can develop and deploy. and manage, that is the system administrator. And before I go on with explaining why this is all nice and what you can do with it, I would like to give you like a very short demo, so we all know how, what you can expect, because it is like a very new product. Originally, I wanted to showcase it live, but because of the internet connection, I'm rather going to showcase you a video. But remember the question database app that I created this morning? Well, I edited it a bit. What I did was, and I'm sorry that it's a bit fussy, but I can explain what it is doing. I wrote some Sencha Space code, so I was including the Sencha Space API in my project. I will showcase you that later. And I'm testing if I'm running into Sencha Space, and if I am running into Sencha Space, then I'm switching the proxy to secure SQL proxy. That's a Sencha Space data, place where you can save it. If I'm not in Sencha Space, I'm using just a normal local storage. That is what I coded. Now let's take a look into the little video. On the left side, you see the Sencha Space client for a phone. In this case, it's the iOS client. And I can as an end user, I can log into this client. And I can see an overview of all the applications that were provisioned to me. So all the apps that I may execute are in this list. It's like a list of bookmarks, basically. And then there is this Sencha Space admin panel. And let me see if I can make it a little nicer to execute it. Let's see if this works. Yeah, a little. No. Well, so on the right side, you see the admin panel. This is the place where the system administrator can get access to, and the system administrator can deploy applications, and he can say like, okay, my end user can get access to these apps that I see here. I can get an overview of the devices, and in the devices you can see who got access to it. So back in my Sencha Space admin console, I am creating here a new application. I put a URL there, and I put an icon there. I write the name to the application, question database. Okay, some description. And then you can see all the users that have access to this app. So my user group, I can say, okay, the sales group and the training group can get access to this app. Then when you go back to your client, you will see that this app, the question database app, will pop up. I'm logging in again. There you go, there it is. And you can see, as soon as I open the app, this is my data that's in Sencha Space. So only Sencha Space client can get access to the data what was saved there. Yeah. I have another example here. Here I am running the desktop client. It's on Windows, but we have also a client for the Mac OS X. And you can see that I can get access, or I can remove the app, and then suddenly you don't have access anymore. And we will go into deeper details in a bit. So you see that that's supposed to be the question database app. I'm opening it now. I'm gonna, I'm not deleting it, I think. I am editing it. I remove it from certain groups. Yeah. I can see when I go to the device tab that the Windows client is got access to the that the Windows client is logged in. I can see that here. I could even open it on a map and see where this device was located. And yeah, when it's correct, you should see that the question database app is gone out of the list. People that want to see it live in action after the session come over, and we'll try it again with the internet. See if we can somehow maybe tether it via a different connection. But yeah, that's what I wanted to showcase. Here I'm blocking the device gets blocked. And as soon as I make a connection to my client again, suddenly this one will log out and I cannot get access to any of the apps anymore. Yeah. Here I'm showing before it worked, before you could open an app. It opens it in a new window, so I get access to these windows. And yeah, then within a bit, it takes a while because it needs to make the request. But as soon as I think now you'll see that it auto-logs itself out. Yeah, there you go. Then you get an error. Let's go a little bit further into the details. These clients that we have clients for mobiles, like iOS, Android, Windows Phone. I think we're also working on BlackBerry. And we have desktop clients, so for Windows, for Windows and for Mac OS X. This is very important, and in a bit I will explain to you why. Because we can have different scenarios of people that will like Sencha Space. Well, first of all, let's take a look into the scenario of an end user. And I took the scenario of Carol. And Carol is, let me just switch to a different deck. Do you know Carol? Who knows this TV show, by the way? Yeah, Little Britain, right? Computer says no. Yeah. So yeah, this is Carol, and imagine that Carol is an end user for the bank. She, her daily task is that she needs to make use of these apps, so she needs to log in. Yeah, what she does not like is when a company would give her 2 devices, right? But often what you see at companies is then they give her like, here, you need to use this mobile phone for your work, and then you also have your private phone, and so you have either 2 phones in your pocket. That's not ideal. Or the flip side is some companies say like, no, you get no phone, but you have to run my apps. So what happens next is that, yeah, you get all these calls and all these emails in the evening, right? So you want to separate your work life from your private life. And this is something why it's nice for Carol, because with Sencha Space, she can log into Sencha Space, get access to all the company apps during work time, and as soon as she leaves the company, she just logs out. And at that moment, there's nothing merged anymore from our work life. You guys can try this as well. You can download the Sencha Space client. You can get it from the iOS App Store. You can get it from the Android App Store or Windows Phone. And for Mac and Windows will be available as well. And once you have access to this client, then you simply log in. Dus here I'm running it on the tablet. And you can see all the apps that were provisioned to me by my IT manager are in this list. Yeah. The next scenario I would like to dive into is the scenario of a system administrator. Again, I took a TV show, IT crowd. So we can take the scenario of Moss. And Moss works for the same bank as where Carol is working for. And yeah, his daily task is that he needs to add new users to the company network, and add all these company business apps to his employees. And he needs to set up all these accounts, deploy new apps, stuff like that. And now imagine that suddenly Carol calls him and says like, yeah, I'm shoe shopping and I lost my iPhone. I mean, at that moment there would be a security breach. But since the bank is making use of Sencha Space, Moss can just open the admin panel and he can just see like, oh, the device was last used in Karlsruhe. And he can just he can either block the device so nobody can access it. He can also choose to wipe the device, so then he removes all the apps from the Sencha Space. He can also just remove Carol out of all the user groups, so she had no access anymore. And he can basically see everything what's happening and what's going on. So I mean that is like very important, I think, for the bank.
Sorry?
Yes.
So they have, with Sencha Space, the whole control over the device.
Yeah, as an IT manager.
Only, not the whole device.
No, everything, all the apps within the Sencha Space. So you can get access to all the business apps on the device. Everything that's on the Sencha Space, the IT manager can get access to or can control it somehow. Yeah.
So I don't know the apps.
You only the client. Yes, so you only install the client, and the IT manager can deploy all the apps for you that you need to use. So if it's somewhere on the server, yes. So they're not stored on the phone; they're somewhere else. But the client gives access to these apps, and that could be, for example, that I work now in sales, so I see different apps than my coworker who's an engineer. The engineer has different apps. Same as within the bank here. I'm gonna tell that. Yeah, I'm gonna tell that actually right in the next slide. So to try this out, you guys can try it as well. You can go to manage.space.sencha.com, and then you log in to Sencha Space. I mean, when you do this the first time, you obviously need to create a new account. You register there, and you can create an organization for your business. You can try it out for free. Then you can create a couple of apps, and you can connect a couple of devices to it. And then you'll see the Space admin. And in the Space admin, you would click on the Applications tab. And at the Applications tab, you see the overview of all the applications that are in the Sencha Space workspace, secure workspace, and I can create new applications. Now, I mentioned this before, these applications are hosted somewhere. And what you're entering here is the app URL. So this can be an application that is hosted and everybody knows the URL from. It can be an URL that is so unreadable that nobody can remember it, but my IT manager does, so he deploys it there. It can also be, and this is like very important, it can also be a URL that's behind a firewall. It can be a URL that's on your local network, can be a URL that's just an IP address. Yeah. So this is where the magic comes. It can be behind the firewalls, right? So this is for a bank, that's very important. So I add the app there, and then I can, if I want, I can preview all the devices that were connected to the Sencha Space. It's a little bit like find your iPhone, because you can see who was connected, and you can see on the map where that device opened the Sencha Space for the last time. And I could click, for example, on the device and block it here. If I say like, okay, this device should not get access to it at all. There is a users tab. Here is where you can create your users. You can import your users for your business. You can do this with the LDA app or a SAML, which are basically just entity providers. So you can set it up. You can import all your users there. Then you can assign all these users to a user group. So again, That can be the end users, like where Carol belongs to. Can also be all the IT managers can have their own group. Yeah, and you can whitelist all the apps that belong to this group. The IT manager can also set up VPN access, so you can create a secure tunnel, so you can proxy your applications, so that it's all secure. You can use a VPN provider like Cisco or Juniper. If you want a different one, I think you can. It's possible. You need to set it up. Yeah, once you have that set up, then your application is behind the firewall and extra secure. There's something else. There is a settings panel, and in the settings panel, the administrator can create some authorization rules. For example, imagine that Carol is making use of the Sencha Space and she is inactive for a couple of minutes. Then, you can set up rules that it automatically logs out. You can set it up after 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, after whatever minutes you want. And you can also choose how does the end user need to log in again. Is that with the full password, or will this be with a PIN code? And PIN code can be like 4 digits, can be 5 digits, can be mixed with numbers and other characters. You can all set that up. And that means that as soon as your device, when you're offline for a while, pops out, logs out, the user needs to enter the PIN code again to log in back into the client. Yeah. There's also a tab where you can set up API access, so you can set up and whitelist which device APIs can be used within Sencha Space or can be used within per application. Yeah. So you can understand this scenario is very nice, for IT manager to give the control back. It depends per app, of course, right? I mean, if you have an app that's running on your local environment and you can access it via a local IP address, for example, then you don't need to have internet access. So the system administrator would whitelist this offline application that is only available within the building, and within the building you can get access to it. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Sencha Space service is actually, the Sencha Space is basically just providing you the access for it. And you can disable the access. But the app itself is not in Sencha Space. It's somewhere else, but Sencha Space gives access.
So if my server was here and I've got my mobile phone here,
Yeah.
then the Sencha Space server anywhere in the world will tell my phone that it can now access the server.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And this was exactly, I mean, the first time when I heard about this Sencha Space, that was also my question. Because I said, well, what's so secure about giving access to an app that's online anyway? But the magic is, because of the Sencha Space APIs, we can give access to the secure and encrypted storage. So only when it's in Sencha Space and you have access to it, then you can open this secure storage. First him. Yeah, it's basically the wrapper of the native wrapper of the client. But we will talk about API features because there are a lot that you can use. Yeah. I don't know what the German rules are, but I know that we used a lot of different rules. And if you're really curious about some specific things, send me an email and I can ask the guys who wrote for this. But it's checked and tested and based on certain criteria. Yeah. Sorry? The clients can be mobile or desktop. Can be Windows, can be Mac OS X, can be iOS phone, can be whatever. You can download the client app. So you download the client app on iOS or on Windows. It's not in the Windows Store yet, or I don't know how they will provide that, but that will be all arranged. Yeah.
Sencha Space admin server.
Mm-hmm.
That be deployed on an own server?
Yes, I think maybe afterwards when Danny is here we can talk a little bit more about that. I'm not sure yet if we have that yet or if that is in the next release. It's definitely something we're working on. It's very important, right? Some companies or organizations want to host a Sencha Space themselves, so yeah. Yeah, should I go further with the next scenario? Okay. Okay, so this was the scenario of the IT manager. Oh, damn it. Yes. Now let's take a look into the scenario of a software vendor. And as a name, say I just came up with a fictional software vendor name. I call them Huli. It is actually also from a famous TV show. I'm wondering if somebody knows. Well, we'll see it in the next slide. Yeah, this software vendor, what they do is they create business apps, and especially for banks, they create financial applications. And what they want to do is they want to deploy their apps to their client, to their users, which are banks in this case. And what is very nice for these software vendors is that they don't need to create code for every browser. No, they just focus on the modern browser, WebKit in this case, because the desktops are running on Chromium and all the modern browsers are like either WebKit or like super modern. The reason why they only need to write for one browser is because it's running in a native wrapper, right? It's running in the iOS client or in the Android client or in the desktop client, and they all are built with their own browser. Basically, it is a browser, Sencha Space. So one code base, you can run all these apps to all these users. And we only need to focus on modern browser and the features of the modern browser, and we do not need to worry about old Internet Explorer, for example, which is something that, like, especially in the financial area, like financial banks and so, they're still using like old school browsers. So, I mean, for a software vendor, this is like super nice because, like, yeah, they're still maybe running Internet Explorer 7, 6, or 8. But they're also running Sencha Space, so all the modern stuff, yeah, that runs in Sencha Space, and it's secure. It also, and I think I like this, this maybe the most. It means that you can eliminate the process of making native apps and the process of putting your app in app stores. I could tell you a story from myself. So like a couple of years ago, I created an app for the World Cup for the Dutch team. That was back then when the Dutch team wasn't so good. And I created this app, and I thought, like, oh, I'm going to make serious money. I'm going to deploy this app in the iOS App Store, and let's see. So 2 weeks before the World Cup started, I submitted the app, and the app was in the App Store on the day that the Dutch team was already out of the game. Yeah, I mean, that's how it works, these App Store processes, right? There's like a review process, and then they just, for various reasons, your app is just not allowed, and you have to work it and resubmit it again. Takes another couple of weeks, and yeah. I mean, when you're creating an app that has a deadline, or when you're working with a campaign, you don't want to deal with these stuff, right? You want to deploy your app, and it should be on the machine better yesterday than tomorrow. And that's the thing with Sencha Space. You can do that. I mean, it's just deploy it on the URL. As long as it has a URL, you can force it and push it to all these devices. And nobody needs to hand over their device to the IT manager to install the app. No, it will be all organized via the via the admin panel. And this is a nice extra for software vendors. They can also brand the client. So when they log in on the Sencha Space on the desktop, for example, or on the iOS client, they can just pass in a couple of colors and they can create their own logo. And the next time when the user uses the client, yeah, you see the name of that company where you created the space for. Yeah, so you can brand it and then make it look like it was the whole Sencha Space was your own app. No questions about the software vendors? Yeah? How cheap is it? Afterwards, we can look into pricing if you want, or ask us afterwards, because we have the prices online. There are like different tiers, so you can the free version you can all do that, and you can create a couple of apps and a couple of devices. But there are like tiers that with monthly prices that allows you for an X amount of apps and an X amount of, I think unlimited apps and unlimited devices actually. Sorry? I don't see you and I don't hear you. Huh? It's not paper use. I think it's paper like you pay per tier, so for an organization, I think. But let's ask this when Danny is around, okay? Because I'm not so into prices. Yeah. The last scenario is the scenario of the developer. It's also a TV show. Do you know this one? It's a Silicon Valley. It's a HBO series, I think. It's about a guy named Richard, and he creates, he works for a Silicon Valley company, and so he works for a startup. But let's say that Richard is also, he works as a freelancer, and the bank asked him to create an app. Now, that's nice. He likes it a lot because what you can do, because he figured out, it's in Sencha Space. Oh, that's nice because I can do a lot with the applications that are already in the Sencha Space. For example, if he wants, he can invoke other applications and he can communicate data between these applications that are in the Sencha Space. That is all possible because we have access to the wrapper, to the client. Now let's see how we can try that out ourselves. Well, first of all, in your HTML5 project, you include the Sencha Space API. And this is actually nice to know for you guys because you can create apps that do not need to be Sencha Touch app. It does not need to be an XJS app. It can be any web package you like. So it can be an AngularJS app, can be a jQuery app, can also be Sencha Touch, or can also be XJS. Whatever app you want to create, as long as you include the Sencha Space APIs in your app. And once you have it included, you make a check and see if your app is indeed running into the Sencha Space. Because otherwise you cannot give access to the data. The data is all encrypted and secure. Right? You can only get access to this data in the Sencha Space. So you make that check. There's another check that you can do. You can test and see if the Sencha Space API was indeed fully initialized. Yeah, and once that's all okay, then you can start making API calls. And such an API call, or all these API calls, they are all based on promises. Are you guys familiar with promises in JavaScript? Some. I'll explain. Because by nature in JavaScript, you cannot JavaScript is single-threaded, so you cannot execute code at the same time, right? If you run code, say it goes from top to bottom, the code. When you want to make a connection to an external service, for example, to fetch data, what's happening is your JavaScript executes. It makes the request to the external service, but by the time that the data comes back from this external service, your JavaScript is already at the end, because that's how JavaScript executes, yes?
Will promises and deploy objects get introduced into EXTJS and such?
Let's talk about that after this, okay? So promises, by its nature, JavaScript single-threaded. So your data comes in later, and I mean, then your JavaScript is already done with executing. And one way to solve this is by using events or callbacks. Callbacks we know from XJS. But another way on how you can approach this is by making promises, and a promise that works like this. You first create a promise. You can create a success call and a failure call. And here's the magic. Your promise can be dennable. That means like you say like, oh, please execute this, and when you're done, then execute that. And if that fails, then yeah, execute the failure. That's what you're doing here. So that's the promises concept. Promises concept has also its own spec, the A+ spec, and that is what ext promise is based on. Now, maybe you get confused when you see ext.promise, because you think, oh, that's XJS code. No, it's not XJS code. It's just Sencha Space code. So you can include the Sencha Space APIs in your Angular app and still create promises like this. Now, these promises, you can fulfill a promise, that's success, or you can reject a promise, that's the failure. And based on this concept, like many of our APIs are based on. For example, the invoke API. And you can see this here in this little this little video. I'm running two applications, the invoke demo application and a photo application. So both, they're running into Sencha Space. This is the photos app, and the other is the invoke app. They're both running in Sencha Space, and my invoke demo app can request from the photo app, like, hey, please pass me all the selected photos. And then I get it in the invoke app. So you can switch between applications and they exchange data. And that's all based on promises. So you can see here, you say ext.space.invoke.get. Photos is the app ID or the name of the application, the photo applications. And then you can make the dennable call. You pass in the fulfill and the failure, the reject call. Yes.
Would that request leave the device? Or does that make it just within
It's all in Sencha Space. So when you make this request, it opens within Sencha Space, the photo app.
within the client?
Yeah, within the client. Yeah. So invoking apps and exchanging data, that's very nice. You can also use like other device APIs, like the camera. Works also on promises concept, as you can see here. I am making a request to my camera. I say .capture, pass in a quality and a width and a height. And then again, I can create the fulfill call. So I can say like, okay, and as soon as the device is done with capturing the image, then execute this. Maybe you want to open another application and insert the photo there. Yeah. There's also an API for downloading files. So you can create a call like this, ext.space.downloads.download, and then you pass in a URL. It fires off this download. It downloads this file for you, and then you get access to the URL or the total bytes or the file name, because these all become instances of a file download. So you can download things on the file system. That's one. We also have the file collection, and then some more is like a flat group of files. It's like a data store. Yeah, I mean you have key value pairs, and everything that becomes an instance of ext.file.file can make like simple CRUD operations on it. So for example, you can get access to the file, and then you can write back. So I'm getting access to some text file here, and I say, okay, once I have the file from my file system, I do something, I write something in there. So you can get access to files in the file system within Sencha Space. Again, it's not out, everything happens inside the space. Yeah. You can write back, you can open, you can count files, you can loop through them, you can just get access to it. This is these are the files. There is also an encrypted version of the collection that is called ext.space.secure files. Works the same as the previous example, but in this case, it's not only secure within the wrapper, no, it's also encrypted. So it's extra secure. And you can query for these files, for example. You can say like, oh, give me all the text files that are in my secure files. Yeah. Yeah. We have secure local storage. That is a wrapper around local storage API. So local storage is an HTML5 feature, but the local storage, as we have seen in the beginning, is not really secure. But once you put it in Sencha Space and you use the secure local storage, yeah, it becomes secure. So that is nice. It's encrypted, so that is a reason to use it. But there is another reason to use the secure local storage, and that is because local storage itself, I think, has only 2 megabyte or 3 megabyte storage. Yeah, I think Sencha local storage has like much more. I don't know exactly the quota, but I think it can be either, maybe it's even unlimited. It's like you're not limited to 2 or 3 megabytes anymore. So that's also a reason to use these instead. Yeah, this is new actually in Sencha Space. All the applications that you are running into the Sencha Space client can be, you can debug those. And basically what happens, well, you need to have Xcode or Android for this. But once you have the SDKs, what happens is that, it on runtime, it decompiles the code for you. So then you can step through the code, you can make breakpoints, you can, just do anything as what you're used to do with debugging, but it's all within the space. You have a question about this? There are many more APIs that you can use. Connection API, these are also, because earlier I had the question, what about the native HTML5 APIs? Well, we have the connection API, we have notification APIs, we have push notification APIs, so you can send messages to other devices, or you can send messages to other apps or users. That's all possible. We can get access to the orientation of the device. We can make use of the barcode scanner. There are storage APIs like Secure SQL. I mentioned secure local storage. There's also Secure SQL. That's the wrapper around the web SQL database. So that is like SQLite database, but all secure and encrypted. We can make file uploads and file transfers with the storage APIs. And the last one, I really wanted to point that out. There are also application APIs, and since I mentioned earlier, there's also a desktop client. That means that you can create, you can go endless with this. I mean, like, you can compare it a little bit with PhoneCap Sencha Space, but Sencha Space is so much more because we have the desktop clients. So that means that you could, for example, create applications over multiple windows. How cool is that, right? I can create an application and I can say, I have one window on this screen and I have another window on the other screen. So this is the screen for the woman that works for the bank, and she sees a different interface than the guy who's sitting on the other side. And I can control his interface from my computer because it's running all in the Sencha Space. So I can control other windows. I can control the full screen mode, so I can make the app full screen. I can control focus API, so I can tell them like which app in the Sencha Space need to be on the foreground, which needs to be on the background. And I can also get access to the profile of the user himself. So I can see like who is connecting to it and where. This is also something, the secure SQL database, when you are saving data in a secure database. I think it's also much faster than when you're using the native HTML5 web SQL. This one is, I think, within 12 or 13 seconds you can fetch or add or fetch millions of records. Well, I think with web SQL it's maybe 1 or 2 seconds per query. So I mean, calculate it. You can. This is super fast. So the conclusion is with Sencha, I mean, Sencha Space is like a very, big solution. It's a secure platform. I think the solution on how you can secure your HTML5 web applications and the data within these applications. We can do this with our secure storage, by encrypting the storage and by having control over these applications. Well, we give the control back to the administrator. And for us developers, I mean, we can come up with endless crazy ideas. I mean, we can create applications that you cannot create. I mean, like these multi-window applications. If you want to create that, you probably need to do something native on the browser itself. Now you can do this with Sencha Space. So I think I'm very passionate about it, and I have already like lots of ideas of apps that I want to create with it. Push notifications. I mean, come on, I like this. So if you think like, oh, this might be interesting, I wrote down some resources that you can use, some blog posts, some guides. I will make sure that my slides will be online later today on Speaker Deck, so then you can just check it out in your own time. Are there questions? No, right. Yeah, within Sencha Space, so not outside Sencha Space. Yeah. Well, I think as if you would, if Dropbox somehow would create an implementation for Sencha Space, then yes. So yeah, maybe eventually, yeah. Yes. Yeah, you can see it on the map. You can see where the device. Oh, and as an API, I think it is. I'm not sure if it's in one of the Sencha APIs or if it just works out of the. It could be just working when you run Navigator. Yeah, need to test it. But otherwise, feel free to, if it doesn't work, feel free to drop me an email, because our developers are working on this product like a lot now, and all these APIs are popping up. And like, for example, they already created like a secure proxy for Sencha developers. So the Sencha developers can just set the proxy to secure local storage, and bam, it saves it in the space. So it's really nice. Yeah.
Back to my example where phone and server would be
Yeah.
the same office. If there was no connection to the Sencha command server,
Mm-hmm.
does the client remember its last allowed configuration, or would it fail to connect for security reasons?
If I'm not sure if I understand your question right. If the app cannot get access to the Sencha Space, is that what you mean?
Yeah, but if the space client can't access the space server,
Mm-hmm.
they still access the resource that the server previously allowed it to access.
It depends, I think, on your session offline time, and also on how the APIs that you set up, if you get access to the secure files or not.
How would you suggest to protect the local server not to be accessed directly through?
That is by, for example, making a check first to see if you're running into the Sencha Space, and if you're into the Sencha Space, then do these calls. But mind you, from outside Sencha Space, you cannot get access to the secure storage or to the secure SQL. It needs to be in Sencha Space anyways. So, for example, if I can demonstrate it you after the session. If I open the question database app in my browser, it's empty. But when I open it in Sencha Space, I see this data.
And how do you make that happen that it's empty if you like to show it?
Because the browser has no access to it. It needs to be in the native wrapper. It needs, like, the client, like the iOS app or the Android app or the desktop app, they get access to it because they are in the native wrapper. Anything else cannot. Yeah. It's it's like a contain. Yeah. 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 Mhm.
You mentioned push notifications.
Yes.
Okay, as I understand, this is a server which just contains the space, say it like that.
Yeah.
But who is pushing the messages actually?
That happens via the Sencha Space APIs. So the APIs, they get access to the client, and I don't know exactly how the code works under the hood, but via the APIs, it goes to this. Yeah,
Okay, but do you provide the push server?
yes, it's in Sencha Space. I think it's in the native wrapper. I think, or yeah, and somehow controlled by the admin panel, I assume.
Okay, because push is quite a tricky and complicated technology.
Yeah.
That's why, because I don't see the push server running on the space server.
Let's take a look into that together afterwards, okay? Then we can open the API docs. We can maybe dive into the Sencha developers code so we see how it was created. I don't know that. I don't know how it was built. But yeah, I just know, yeah, it would push notifications, yeah. Uh-huh. How about you? You had a question or it was answered by now?
Yeah, asked if this promise
Yeah.
mechanism, if it will be integrated into HTTPS
Ah.
or Sencha.
Not, well, yeah, not for now. For now, they say, well, it's only in Sencha Space. I've seen requests coming by, and I just don't know what they're doing. Maybe in the next version, because yeah, we have the code now, yeah, and it's very powerful. Yeah,
You have the promises you have also in dev.js. So you just
Yeah, I know that, but yeah.
actually XJS is Sencha introduced it too. It's version 2, so it's
who knows? Yeah, who knows? More questions? Okay, then I would like to thank you very much for joining me today.